Welcome to Policing TV, where I'm absolutely delighted again to be joined by Rachel Tuffett, who is I think I've got it saying, still the Interim Director for the Centre of Police Productivity at the UK's College of Policing. Still is sort of phrased quite deliberately in that today, Rachel, the day that we're recording this in mid-August 2025, is the morning in the UK of the last day that you have at the College of Policing before you go on a career break. So when we publish this on Policing TV, and indeed this is going to be three videos that we record in sequence. When we publish these three videos, you will be on that career break, perhaps more of which a little bit later on. But I thought this would be a wonderful opportunity to adopt the police leaders format that we use, which is to invite police leaders to talk in three videos of roughly 10 minutes each about past, present, and future. So, in other words, their career to date, the present being the handover that you are making or have made as this is your final day to others for that in preparation for that career break, and the future, the third video, looking at some of the challenges and opportunities that you see in and for policing UK and internationally. So that's the format we're planning. And you kindly agreed to that. And I
I
did
do.
give you a
I'm
little,
British.
I did give you a little warning of this first question of mine, which I am going to continue the preamble just a little bit further to acknowledge that your career prior to the College of Policing was immediately prior with the National Policing Improvement Agency as the head of research there, with the Home Office as the head of their policing research and other such roles, and as a research fellow at the University of East London. And those latter elements, in other words, the earlier parts of your career, lead me into the question of how did you get involved in policing and in policing research and in related matters? Was it something you stumbled into, or was it something that you set out to achieve?
That's a very good question. Yeah. So, thanks, Bernard. It's you did give me warning, but only a few minutes. So
Only
I
no
shall
more than 90
organise the.
seconds. 90 seconds ago.
Yes, no, it's funny, isn't it? I think like many people in policing, I was one of those people who was always fascinated by the sort of world of policing and detectives, of course, from what we read and saw on television, which was like hugely inaccurate, but nonetheless, fascinated by that. I think it's something to do with being endlessly nosy and curious about what happens. And of course, interestingly, as a researcher is the same as some of what you need as a police officer, is to be endlessly nosy and curious. And I think actually policing and research got a lot in common in that sense, and that's why actually a lot of police officers make really good researchers when they get into it. So yeah, I was like fascinated, like many others. I was interested in thinking about trying to join policing in order to try and get into the detective world with my kind of unrealistic view of what that would be. But some friends of mine did some support staff work in a force in the summer holidays. I think they were probably 18, 19. And some of the stories they told me won't surprise anybody. Some eye-widening sexism that just made me think, is this quite right for me right now? And I think my thought was, no, I don't think it is. And I think I know, in fact, that things have moved on so much since then that if I was making that decision now, I might well make a different decision. So, which is great, actually. It's a great reflection, I think, for me personally, and I think for other people who want to do that kind of work. And there are routes like, the direct entry detective routes. I don't know if any of those are still running. So for people where that is their real passion, the slightly, maybe, can I say that, slightly geekier world than response, maybe. I don't know. A detective might disagree with me about that. But anyway, so that I kind of thought, not for me, at least not yet. But I was lucky enough when I lived in France. My partner's French, and I lived in France for a few years with him, did some kind of work in sort of translation and things like that over there. And then when I came back, I kind of came back because I didn't feel like I was really developing a career out there. I was running a language centre, but I couldn't really see where you would go from there. So I thought, I think maybe I need to come back and see whether I can find something else. Applied for lots of things, no success. Did a temporary stint working in British Rail as a PA, which is where I learnt to type. And then a friend of mine was working in the University of East London, and she told me that there was an application process for a temporary researcher. So I applied to that and got an interview. And on the basis of my degree, which was in French and sociology, I was able to get this temporary post. And I was hugely fortunate. Looking back, you think, how did that happen? The first piece of research that I did, I mean, then I look back into what I did in my degree, and actually I did 2 little mini research projects. You forget these things, because I was always so nosy and always trying to find things out. Anyway, my first research project was about children in a particular neighbourhood in East London. And what we were trying to find out was what their experiences of victimisation were outside the school environment. So what was happening to them on the street effectively. And so I did lots of research to find out how you interview children, how you do it appropriately and ethically. I did all of the kind of setup for it. And from kind of a cold start, I basically wrote a piece of research, which I then presented at criminology conferences. And, that was my start in research. And because it was so closely related to policing and crime, I ended up doing those projects in that team because it was a broader team that was focused on urban regeneration generally in East London. So people did projects on housing and projects on employment. But I started on the crime project, and so I did more crime projects. And then a job came up in what was then the police research group in the Home Office. And my boss had worked there several years before. So she talked about that. So I knew about it. It's kind of, sometimes it's just knowing that something exists, isn't it? I wouldn't even have known it existed. So when I saw it come up, I was like, ooh, I think that would be really interesting. So I applied, was lucky enough to get, it's one of those things. I remember being in the interview and the 2 people that are interviewing me, Gloria Laycock and Barry Webb, I think it was. And because it was a genuine thing, not a creepy thing. I said, oh, I've just read your report on blah. It was really interesting because of this and this, which of course is the ideal thing to say, but I wasn't even doing it in a deliberately creepy way. I had just read it because I needed it for a project. Anyway, so I got that sort of the first researcher role, a research officer role in the Home Office. And then it sort of carried on from there. So that was the start, I suppose, was, that project in East London when I was talking to young children about their experiences.
You mentioned Gloria Laycock and Barry Webb and the Police Research Group. And my very first experience of policing and police research was back in 1990 with Gloria Laycock as the head of the Police Research Group. Great shame that Police Research Group was wound down. But it's fascinating. I didn't know that we shared that common element of the connection with Gloria and with Barry. So that's brilliant. So that you joined the Police Research Group, and that I have no doubt with Gloria and Barry and others in the Police Research Group, their enthusiasm absolutely coming out, and the team. It was inevitable in their team. I suspect that you developed even greater enthusiasm for policing.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you find that process from there then? You joined as I think, principal researcher within the police
No,
research group.
I was right at the bottom. I was a research officer when I
You were a
joined.
research officer, so you joined at the bottom of the scale, as it were. You
Yep.
worked over roughly 10 years at the Home Office to become head of policing research. Um, it's a great opportunity here to just ask you about the memorable moments, things that might have, I don't know, hesitate to ask this one, but things that might have gone wrong that you look back on now and think, with a wry smile, or things that surprised you perhaps, or invite you. What are your memories of that time? Clearly a part of it at the Police Research
Yeah.
Group was the energy of that group. And I've got to ask, did you sort of cut your teeth in your sort of leadership style there at the Police Research Group, or what do you remember about those days?
Yeah, I had some really supportive people that we worked with. I think what I remember most is just the sort of team environment. It's wonderful working with other researchers and police officers, and just look, there's so many questions being asked, and people to discuss your ideas with, and kind of you if you're getting stuck on something, there's always somebody else who kind of has done something similar or has got an idea to help you. So yeah, it was a great team, and we even had people from overseas. There, Jackie was from Australia, and yeah, she'd worked in government over there. So it was a really great team of people. And I think the other thing is the sort of you learned how to deliver a project end to end on your own, pretty much, because you sometimes needed to do that. But as I say, with this help from people in the background. But I think the biggest thing was how you work with forces and how you make research matter. Because you can do an interesting. Lots of people can do an interesting research project. It's like, and then the classic, no, the recommendations never go anywhere. The report sits on a shelf. So what I got really fascinated by was, and that was a big part of what the difference, I suppose, in somewhere like the Police Research Group. It was all about it being applied, and how do you get the change to happen. I remember one of my colleagues, the classic civil service things they would tell you how to do in terms of how you present your information to ministers. I got to go and do a tiny little secondment in Jack Straw's office, a week for a few
Former
months.
Home Secretary.
The former Home Secretary, yeah, and that was absolutely fantastic. So you had all these kind of opportunities to see, like, in terms of anecdote. I mean, it's a tiny thing, but so important. I remember seeing his box. Several boxes. So this is all the papers that are going into the ministers, kind of for the ministers' consideration over the weekend. So all of this stuff goes into the box, all marked up, all these submissions with all these decisions to be made. So I got to be part of that, of getting all of the stuff into the box. It goes off with the Home Secretary. It comes back on the Monday. It's all been read. It's all been annotated. All of those decisions have been made. And I thought to myself, wow, we are writing quite short reports for that kind of thing. There might be like 20, 30 pages, quite succinct, lots of really good material in them. How would I ever expect somebody like Jack Straw to read even like beyond page one? And that moment for me was like, really, okay, so we've got to really think about how do we get our information into a pithy enough form, or into the right place, so that it's part of the process that people are already using. Don't come with your separate book. You need to embed your thinking, your findings into other people's processes, so that it becomes part of what they're doing. I think that was the start of that for me, which became such a big theme later on. It's got to see it
I
from their
I
perspective, get into their shoes and walk around in them for a bit.
I knew when we started this recording of actually three recordings of target timing, 10 minutes each, that there would be a wealth of material and we'd struggle to keep to time. And we're already a bit challenged on time already. I just want to acknowledge, though, National Policing Improvement Agency Head of Research, now College of Policing, a number of roles, including the Centre for Police Productivity. And we're going to speak in video two about some of the current work and how that's being handed over to others during your career break. But I just before we wrap up with this first video, just wanted to pick up on whether there have been elements during your policing and research related career to date where uh, you've picked up practice that you've then made a point of latching on to yourself. I know, for example,
Mm.
um, Gloria, fantastic, enthusiastic leader, and capable of really encouraging the very best out of people. Um, what are there elements where you've, upon reflection, sat and thought, well, actually, that's something that there are elements in such and such a person, don't have to name them, but that you've
Am
thought,
I
oh,
allowed to
actually, that's
swear?
brilliant.
Swear mildly, Bernard.
Yeah, of course, you can swear as much as you like.
It's
Our
only, I'm
colleagues,
quoting. I'm quoting.
we can
So
bleep them.
you,
We can put one of those
give it
bleeps
a little
if
bleeper in,
needed.
yeah. You just reminded me of a story, and actually, this really did stick with me all the way through, and it's still there now. I was in a control room. We used to do, like, obviously, lots of observation, lots of interviewing of people. So this was a project. I was in a control room, um, and the guy I was sitting with said, "Hang on a minute." He said, because that there'd been a report over the radio that there was somebody with a gun. On a roundabout in the town, and he said, "Hang on a minute, I'm just going to put my shit umbrella up." And he calls over to the sergeant. He says, Sarge, it's that bloke with the chair leg again." And he said, "Oh yeah, you're sure it's him, are you?" "Pretty sure." "All right then." And so it continued, because this was kind of, actually wasn't a gun. This guy was, it happened before. They kind of knew who this person was, and there was a background to it and all the rest of it. I was just really struck by that phrase. And for me, one of the things you need to do as a leader is to create that umbrella, because people have said to me, "Oh, they asked me, they described a servant leader on this course, and I thought of you." And I thought, well, that's really good, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do: create a really good place for people to do really good work. Yeah, you can help with, like, the big direction, but they're the ones who are doing the work. So the most important thing is that you create a great place for them to do that work.
That's brilliant. I've never heard that expression before, and I don't think we're going to bleep it. But to sanitize it, we might think of some basis for the acronym SH1T. But shit umbrella, it's just that's brilliant. But look, Rachel, we've more than exhausted our time on this first element, so I'm going to thank you at this stage. We're going to take a pause, and then we're going to come back and record the second video, and then the third. Just a reminder for those watching this very first video in this particular recording with Rachel, if you haven't yet subscribed to Policing TV's YouTube channel, this very day, actually, Rachel, we went from 999 subscribers to over 1,000.
Oh,
So
brilliant.
I'm delighted that we're now into the thousands on the Policing TV YouTube channel. Go along there and subscribe if you're watching and haven't yet done so. But Rachel, for the time being, stay where you are. We'll come back in a moment or two. Thank you for this first recording.
Thank you.